Hey engagement fans, welcome back to the Engagement Studio. I'm Ann Maltese and I lead our Insights team here at Quantum Workplace. Today I'm joined in the Engagement Studio by Michael Foss, so thank you Michael for being here.
Pleasure.
Michael is the Vice President of Organizational Effectiveness at Neovia, and today we're going to talk about how HR leaders can embed employee engagement into the overall organizational strategy. So, pretty important topic. So Michael, let's start off with why it's so important to embed employee engagement into the business strategy.
So I think people use the word strategy a little bit haphazardly, so I'd like to define it first. Very simply put, it's just a plan of how you're going to achieve your outcomes. It could be long-term or short-term, right? So when you think about what it takes for an organization to achieve its outcomes, it needs four basic things. It needs processes, tools, a structure, and people. And if these things aren't planned for, then the success rate of your outcomes are much smaller. So what that does is it gives HR an awesome opportunity to use engagement, which is something that collects rich data about how to motivate employees and keep them connected to their work, their teams, and the organization itself. As part of the business strategy, part of the how. How are we going to achieve the outcomes that we need to?
Good. Well then how, as leaders, can we really make sure that that gets embedded into the business strategy?
Yeah, so from my experience, there's sort of two types of leaders in this game. There's those who are talent-minded, so those who get it, right? They know that their assets are people, and the people are the ones who drive the business forward. And so for them, an engagement program, so what we use with Quantum Workplace is the survey tool, for example, provides such rich data around how to make decisions around what motivates your employees, how effective the communications and change programs are, how effective the development programs are, and all these things are structured to helping people be part of that strategy. And then there's those leaders who don't get it, right? People are sort of an afterthought or a paycheck. The way that I like to approach that is through a risk quotient. So if we're going to try to achieve these outcomes, and you got the processes in place, got the tools in place, right? Like we know that we have to achieve this revenue growth. Well, if you don't have the right people in place, there's no way you're going to do it. So then you start framing up how much risk are you exposing yourself to because you're not focused on these different engagement levers like communications, change, and development. And if I can convince you to focus on them, through a strategy, then we can get very specific on what kind of development they need based on the outcomes we're trying to create.
I think that's a really smart approach. So lastly, I know a lot of times our viewers are looking for tactics. So are there any tactics you would share or any pieces of specific advice for our users to be thinking about how to embed engagement into the business strategy?
Yeah, so there's three things that I've done in the past. One is building a strategy planning guide or a human capital strategy planning guide. So, the processes and tools, you got a whole other departments who are focused on those things around strategy, but we own the people piece. So what are those types of leading questions that leaders should be thinking about as they plan out the how they're going to achieve their outcomes, especially around their people? If you give them a guide that they can go through or their HR partner can take them through, that tends to yield results of getting those people considerations into the plan itself. Some leaders are unfortunately not very good at planning, and they may need templates. So, a Word document basically says, what are you going to do around development? And you give them some leading points as to how to think about it. What are you going to do around communications? What are you going to do around change management? What are you going to do around motivation and recognition? Put those things into a document, then it sort of becomes part of the plan. And then you need a strong HR team to help them execute upon it. And then the third thing I think the HR really needs to focus on is the data, right? So our engagement survey at Quantum Workplace, it uses a lot of questions to get at some very specific things we want to know because we like to use those either to show risk or effectiveness of talent programs. And then that is how we can embed it into the strategy of achieving our outcomes.
Great. Well, a lot of great information there and great advice as well. So thank you for sharing all of that and thanks for joining me today. So that's a wrap on how you can embed employee engagement into the overall business strategy. Now let's go make work better every day.